Dear brothers and sisters, welcome. Today we're going to talk about something that is very dear to my heart and is very dear to the doctrine itself, because harmony is what we come to find every time we think about getting better. Harmony, it's a balance, it's a equation of so many different things. And harmony, as a matter of fact, translates to health. If you are healthy, that means that you are not causing too much trouble to your body. Yes, I said causing trouble to your body, because that's what we do. And that's how we got sick. We got sick because we caused trouble to our body. How? Just by not understanding our feelings. Just by not understanding, not giving the right meaning to the things that happen to us every day. And when we start growing bad feelings inside ourselves, that's the time that we start delivering diseases, sickness. We start getting ill. So this is just a reminder and also a proposal to remember that most of the time, if not all the time, we are in control. And the times that we are not in control is because we gave up the control to something else. We have the control. As a lot of people say, and if I do have time by the end, I'm going to show you a video about that. We can self-heal ourselves just by choosing how to understand whatever comes to us, whatever facts, acts, whatever perception things cause on us in our everyday life. So, since the image of God, since man is the image of God, he finds God as in a mirror, in the intimacy of his own soul. To turn away from God is the same as to rip out one's own vitals, to empty oneself and to wane constantly. On the other hand, when man enters within himself, he discovers deity. St. Augustine. St. Augustine was an amazing person, and probably that's why he sang. But sanity is something that we're not going to discuss today. He was the first one to understand faith as seeking of understanding. And he was the first one of start fostering the principle of I need to understand to believe, or I believe because I understand. And if I do understand, things get clearer, and that's how I believe. So every time, what it's saying here is basically that every time we get out of the laws or the sayings or the example that Jesus left for us, we get sick. We feel like we are ripping ourselves from inside out. We're feeling that we are taking the divinity from ourselves and giving to something else. It's hard to understand this kind of feeling, but remember when you are feeling wrong. Can you deal with this feeling? Or all of a sudden you try to replace it with some other kind of feelings like, oh, I'm not wrong, this is the irony of the destiny, this is such and such, or you try to distract your brain with something else, and by the end of the day, that's the wrong feeling again bothering you when you go to bed. So it's pretty much that. If we don't understand things the way we should, we always going to get sick one way or another. We're always going to feel guilty one way or another. We're always going to feel wrong one way or another. And one of the principles of our brain is that we always run for pleasure and run from pain. If somebody here thinks that feeling wrong is pleasurable, then you're not the subject of this talk. Because nobody that feels wrong is like, oh, I had the best day ever. No, we feel different. We feel put it to the side. And when you feel that you did pretty good, yes, that's the time that you feel awesome. And that's why our brain was built to go for it. That's amazing. That's another minimal thing that God did, and we don't take advantage of that. This is one thing that in all my lectures, it doesn't matter if it's lectures inside the Spirit Center or for companies, I always ask you to remember this image. And every time you talk about yourself, just visualize you as an egg with a life inside. If I come with a hammer and hammer the egg, life ends. But if I left the egg with the force within to broke the shell, life begins. What does that mean? Every time we let things coming from our inner self, we connect to our inner self, life begins. Every time we take things from outside in, we feel wrong. Life ends. Examples. Well, every time you assume something that you don't believe. Every time you do something that you don't believe, but you did because you were looking good among your friends. But I don't like to do that. I don't like to smoke. But see, everybody smokes around me and I'm a teenager. Well, I'm going to try. How many times? Until you cough your lungs out? Lucky us, we probably didn't want it all the way to the end. But how many of us do that? And who can tell me by the very first day they got a cigarette in their hands that, oh, this is all I want my whole life? To put vapor in the form of fumes inside my body. But what do we do that? Because we allowed an external force to crack the shell. And then we have to face the consequences. Because nobody can force us to do what we don't want to do. So, with no further saying, let's attack the concept of health and sick. Because this is amazing. This is something that people being criticized the Spiritist doctrine for a long time say, oh, you guys love to suffer. You guys love pain. No. I never saw one Spiritist friend of mine loving to get to be in pain. But you have a choice. You have a choice to understand why the pain is coming. And you have a choice to understand as a lesson instead of, oh, poor me. This is my karma. This is how it works. Everybody has everything and I have nothing. So, let's understand a little bit about that. The health of the physical body is a reflection of the level of balance of the spirit in the evolutionary process towards love, beauty, and good. Disease, it's an internal signal calling for a rebalance of the self, inviting one to reconnect with love and source. What is saying here is more profound than the words that are there. Disease is something that you cause to yourself because you know that you are not doing right. And by not doing right, your body will not functioning right. If you feel sad or anger about a situation that you cannot let go, in the end, you're going to develop a disease, a material one. Everything starts in a spiritual level, in a feelings level, but in the end, this will download to your body as sickness. And in the end, unfortunately, we caused that because we didn't take care of our thoughts. We didn't take care of our emotions. We didn't pay attention to a minimal thing. You know what is a minimal instance of depression? How depression can start? Anybody has a clue? By being lazy. By being lazy. I'm not saying that you're lazy today and next month and then next year, but being lazy every day and being criticized of being lazy. And then you don't want to don't want to hear all the critics. You don't want to hear all the yelling, and you start, pushing people away. So you start living your own world, and all of a sudden it's you and nobody else around. And that's how that starts. And you know what? That can turn out to be too big depression. Because you decide not to feel. And your body, and especially your brain, will respond to that. If you decide not to have feelings because you don't like the feelings that you are having, your body will stop, your brain will stop producing the chemicals that connect the neurons, that connect the synapses, the information. And all of a sudden, you are almost a person that suffered lobotomy. You feel nothing. This is the worst case of depression. But it can start as just laziness. If you let it evolve. So, of course, this is a hard color to paint. But that can happen. Think about other things in our lives that we left alone, not taken care of, and evolving right now or in the past, you have to deal with that, and it was really bad. Well, fortunately, from one side, and unfortunately for the other, we'd let it go. We did that. We didn't take care. It's better to take care of the things when they happen. And then re-signify what comes to us. It's a new microphone, so we're testing this right now. Health and illness are constructions of a man, and no one is victim of anything but himself, of his own decisions, his own choices, what he decides and determines in his own life. What comes from outside and crack the egg kills life. If you want to let things come from your inner side, from your within yourself, life starts. C.S. Lewis said, every Christian would agree that a man's spiritual health is exactly proportional to his love for God. What is he saying? The same that we saw on the first slide. Every time we follow God's steps, every time we follow His teaching, we feel right. And by feeling right, we start getting healthier. Every time we go against that, we feel wrong. And this feeling will make us sick. That's simple like this, but I wish it was that simple. And I wish we were like simple beings that can understand that just the way it is and change it. But there's so many other shades of gray that we deal every day that turns that a little complicated. The disease is not a weed which coming from outside. It enters the body by force. The truth is the opposite. The disease is a daughter of the body, a message generated in the death, and that rises to the surface of the flesh, just as bubbles produced in the depth of the lagoon creeps upwards and bursts on the surface of the water. Grodeck was a physician who was a pioneer of the psychosomatic medicine, which is the main objective of that was to analyze the man not just by the body and the mindset. Analyze something else, which is, they didn't say the soul, but for us, of course, is the soul itself. So he was the first one of telling that, diseases are not something that you're going to treat with medicine. Because medicine will treat the result. It's not going to treat the root. And the root is not in your body. The root is here. The root is in your thoughts. The root is in your feelings. So there is no medicine. There's no medication to treat that. You can put somebody numb for a lot of time. By being numb, you're not going to think. That doesn't work. Because when you come out of the numbness, you're going to start thinking again. And you didn't rethink your thought process. So you're going to start thinking again the same way that you thought before. And guess what? You're going to get sick again. You're going to get sick again. If you don't change the way, if you don't change the cause, you don't change the outcome. There's no way. We have to change the cause. If the cause is that because I'm feeling so much grief, because I'm feeling so much anger, because I'm feeling so much frustration, why? Why do I feel so much of that? Start analyzing the things. Start asking yourself things. Therefore, all healing is also a self-healing phenomenon. It does not simply mean to relieve of the symptoms and to restore the biological process of the body. It is necessary to achieve a moral overhaul of one's thoughts, feelings, and actions. Yeah, this is easy to say, Peter, but it's really hard to achieve. Okay, that's why I present you that egg image. Every time something comes to you, just imagine yourself as the egg. Is that external or is that internal? Is that coming from outside? If it's coming from outside, it's probably going to break the egg. And what's happened to life when you break the egg? It ends. It ends. It's a metaphor. Yes, it is. But it's a great metaphor. You can heal yourself. You can heal your life by yourself. Dr. Deepak Chopra has a great saying. If you want to know why you are where you are today, look what you did in the past. If you want to know what's going to be in the future, look what you're doing now. Open your heart, or a cardiac surgeon will do that for you. And it's so true. Because a lot of diseases from the heart comes from feelings that attacks the heart. And if you keep growing, if you keep storing, giving storage to that, it's going to be a day that you cannot stock anymore. It will overflow. And then when it overflows, let's talk about medicine for a second. What is an overdose? What is an overdose? Too much medicine. Medicine is what?
Poison.
If you translate medicine to something more chemicals, right? Your brain produces chemicals as well, right? When you are afraid, it produces adrenaline. When you're happy, dopamine. If you produce too much of one thing all the time, you get an overdose. You get an overdose. And then your body's going to react to that, because the overdose is not spiritual. It's not emotional. It's in your body. You produce the chemical. It is there. And it will cause some harm. Of course it is. Of course it will. It will cause harm. But we create this overdose of the same chemical substance over and over and over. And if we can create that substance, we can stop that substance to be created. And we can heal from there. We can flush that adrenaline. We can flush that dopamine. We can flush the noradrenaline and so far and so on. Well, let's talk about a little bit of the disease. In the spiritual Christian view, anger or being sick can be understood as an invitation of the body, our innate wisdom to restore our equilibrium in accordance with God's laws. So every time you got sick, it's just your body telling you, hey, pay attention. You're not doing something right. What is that? What is that you're not doing right? Can you correct it? Think about it. Isn't it an easy way, a lighter way to deal with our problems, to deal with our sickness, to deal with something that comes to us? But on the other hand, does that make sense? I believe it does. Because it's proved by science. It's proved by a lot of scientists so far. It does make sense. But as we are an immortal soul that comes from dozens, if not hundreds of incarnations, we learned this, the Judeo-Christian view, that sees as a punishment. So every time I get sick, I tend to feel that I'm being punished because I did something wrong. This is in our, I'm not going to say DNA, but this is in our archive, our spiritual archive from centuries. So it's hard to not feel punished or not feel guilty of something when you get sick. But as a matter of fact, sickness is just like, hey, remember, you were healthy 5 minutes, 5 days, 50 days ago. What's happened? Oh, I start developing this kind of thought. Change it. Otherwise, it's going to get worse. This little whatever you have can turn out to be a lot harder. And then it's not going to be fun for any of us. Change it. But of course, we had these passages of the Bible, like this one in Deuteronomy 28:15. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord your God, or be careful to do all of his commandments, and his statutes that I command you today, then all these curses shall come upon you and overtake you. Yeah. This was told by a civilization that only believed in, I don't like you, you're dead. And that's good. And that's it. Nobody's going to blame me. I have a sword, I don't like him, I kill him. Done. And then come Moses say, you shall not kill. Ooh, hard. Why? I've been killing for my whole life. So he needs to use strong words and strong penalties to make people obey. Guys, we are 2,000 years after. We don't need those rules anymore. We have our thinking process a way developed than them. We don't need to believe in that anymore. We don't need to. We need to use our intellectual brain to understand things. Why? Why God is going to punish me? Why God is going to punish any one of us? Why God was being painted and told as an angry person that was there to punish? We see, we read, we heard all the time that he loves us. So that is a completely different two sides of God. Right? Our God has bipolar disease, or something's wrong. I don't think that he's bipolar. I think something's wrong. So I stick to the facts instead. In the question 966 of the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec, the codifier of the Spiritist doctrine, asked the high spirits, why does man often form to himself so gross and absurd an idea of the joys and sorrows of the future life? And the spirits respond, because his intelligence is still but imperfectly developed. Thus the child comprehends as does the adult. You can tell the child something that as complicated as we understand. No, you can't. We are child. We cannot understand things. So they talk to us in metaphors, and we took the metaphors as real. And that's why we create all the confusion. Your language being too incomplete to express what lies beyond the range of your present existence, it has been necessary to address you through comparisons borrowed from that existence, and you have mistaken the images and figures thus employed for realities. So when Jesus was teaching through parables, people were understanding by the book what he was saying, instead of trying to analyze what he was saying. Like, if you say that you don't bathe in the same river twice, for that people, you're nonsense. Of course I do. I go there every day. I bathe in the same river. What I'm saying is that the water is not the same, because the river flows. So the water that you bathed yesterday is not the same today. So what is beyond that? Is that, come on, every day is a new opportunity to learn. Every day is a new opportunity to face something different. They didn't understand that, but we can. But first we need to get rid of all these centuries of accepting things without questioning. Question 964, has God to concern himself about each of our actions in order to reward or to punish us? Well, if you think about the Earth population, it's a lot of souls. And we know that God doesn't only take care of Earth. There's a lot of other orbs, other planets, other constellations filled with spirits. So does he take care of everybody? God's laws applies to all your actions. When a man violates one of those laws, God does not pronounce sentence on him by saying, for example, you have been gluttonous, I shall punish you for that. But he has traced a limit to the appetite. Here's another metaphor. You've been gluttonous and I'm not going to punish you, but if you eat too much, what happens? You feel sick. And if you keep eating, what happened? And what happened to the Roman Empire?
Collapsed.
Because of what?
Greed.
Greed, parties, eating, drinking. There were, in one time, the Roman Empire was a perfect society, to a point that the high spirits thought, there you go. Here's the place that we can start. Here's the place that we can deliver the gospel according to Spiritism. But then they got you gluttonous. I'm sorry. And then they got you greedy. And then all the maladies start developing. So what happened is we have the free will. What we do with the free will is up to us. But as Paul said, I can do whatever I want, but not everything fits me. If we know what fits us, what makes us slim, healthy spiritually, that's the thing that we can follow. That's the way that we can create our healthy living. Health is the thought in harmony with God's law. Disease is the process of rectifying it. Disease is not a burden. Disease is not a penalty. Again, disease is a process of rectifying it, correcting mistakes and abuses made by ourselves. Espírito Lourenço Prado, channeling by Chico Xavier, one of the greatest mediums that Brazil saw when he was incarnated and discarnated as well. Harmony with God's law, health. Rectifying it, disease. So there's no, oh, I'm guilty. Oh, I'm just like that because I don't worth it what I did. I don't worth it your compassion, your benevolence. Yes, you do. But you have to feel it. You have to understand it. What is the definitive medicine? How can we cure that in ourselves? 4-letter word. Love. Read the body message, the soul's invitations, questioning the whys of the circumstance and especially what for of the same. If you're feeling angry with somebody, why am I feeling angry? Oh, because they said that, they did that, it's really wrong. Okay, and what for you're going to feed the anger? What good is going to do it to you? What is the outcome of keep feeling anger with somebody? Of course, if somebody did something really bad to you, you're not going to say, hey, I'm your friend, come again. But are you going to nurture that feeling that's going to poison you? That's the question. The why gives us an understanding, pacifying the soul in the acceptance of the facts. And the what for gives us a view of what the disease is targeting. What is targeting? An awareness of the educational process of reincarnation. It's a way, it's 2 tools that we have that we can apply, not when you are feeling emotional, especially in the heat of the moment, you're not going to do that. But after that, when you can analyze with a cold blood, your blood is not boiling anymore, that's the time to use the two tools. Why? Why that upset me that much? And what for? I'm going to keep being upset. I'm going to keep regretting. I'm going to keep envy. I'm going to keep not forgiving. Why? What for? What's good for me in doing that? Holding to unforgiveness is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. That's how silly it is. You put a lot of chemicals inside your body, and you want him to die. How come? Explain me materially, how can you make somebody die? Like, you're going to die. It's not going to happen. But you are going to get sick because you are storing a lot of bad chemicals in your body, and you're going to have a reaction like an overdose if you keep doing that. Unforgiveness is a poison. And the word and the phrase was from Shakespeare. Unforgiveness is a poison. Anger is a poison. Sadness is a poison. We need to understand that, because in low dosages, it won't hurt too much. But when you start storing a lot of that, yeah, you're going to get sick. And then you're going to take some pills. And the pill and the medicine is going to heal the outcome, not the source, not the root. And it will come again if you don't change your feelings, if you don't change the way you think. The sorrows act within us as the plant that once, sorry, I need my eyes because kind of discarnating so far. The sorrows act within us as the plant that once saved and cultivated grows its roots, produces flowers, fruits, and multiplies. That is nice if it was a flower of love, a flower of forgiveness, a flower of whatever good you can think. But if it's a flower of sorrow that is growing inside of you, I don't think that is a good feeling. But that's how we feel when we feed this kind of feeling. And we end up entangled in a series of emotional pains, at times not knowing where it all began. We are developing a creature so big, a plant so big that in the end you don't know how it starts. And it's hard to take care of that. It's hard to do your gardening because you cannot control it anymore. We keep things within us without analyzing them, without talking about them, without emotionally metabolizing what we are feeling and experiencing. Why I'm feeling that? What for I'm going to keep this feeling? Our heart's going to be like this if it's not more cracked, like the egg that I showed you in the beginning. If you're going to crack from outside, life stops. Life ends. Always crack from inside, because great things come from inside. Love is the greatest medicine and is the greatest purpose of existence. Love is a healing medicine par excellence, bringing about respect, consideration, and appreciation. It treats the diseases of the soul, which are pride, selfishness, vanity, and arrogance. I choose to forgive. This is the essential condition. But I choose to forgive who? Who am I forgiving in the first place? Ourselves. And please don't tell me that I don't have anything against myself, because if you are feeling sad, lonely, angry, you develop to yourself first, and then you deliver to somebody else. I choose to forgive myself. Choose to forgive yourself. Why not? Why don't you deserve to be forgiven? For yourself first. Because if you don't have forgiveness inside of you, how can you give to somebody else? If you don't have love for yourself, how can you give to somebody else? What kind of emotion you're giving that you don't have inside yourself? It's an empty emotion. We can get empty words and maybe believe. Empty emotions, we don't. We do not believe in empty emotions, because emotions, we feel it. And something inside our gut say, this is not right. He or she is not telling the truth. Choose to forgive yourself first and foremost. Forgiveness is an essential condition for health. Without forgiveness, there is no inner peace. There is no physical or emotional health. We need to embrace forgiveness as a project. How many projects you have in your work? How many? One too many? And why don't you have a project in your life? Why don't you have a project in your spiritual life? Why don't you have a project in your emotional life? Oh, it takes too much. I have so many things to do on my daily basis. Do you? 8 hours of work, and then you're free to do what? Do another project. But this time, do a project for yourself. Work for yourself and see things changing. One thing about focus, one thing about our brain, is that we cannot understand everything that is inside of this room right here at the same time. It's too much information. So every time, every minute, every second, you choose what you pay attention to, what you focus on. If you focus on the wrong side of the story, all you're going to see is wrong. If you focus on the good side of the story, all you're going to see is good. But again, you're going to get tired of hearing me saying that, but I'm going to say it every time. Do not believe in my words. Try it. Try it. Try to focus on something good all the time. And see your day change. And see your month change. And all of a sudden see your life change. It's what you focus on that changes your life. If you focus on a disease, disease it is. If you focus on a solution, solution it is. How can you have a solution if you focus on a problem? You're not focusing on the right place. Forgiveness is the decision that leads to peace. It translates into understanding of emotional issues, our personal characteristics, the circumstances surrounding the offender's actions, and our responsibility and co-responsibility in the process. Decision that leads to peace. That's what we need to think. Understanding of our emotional issues. Yeah, I'm not perfect. If you're going to forgive yourself, think about that. If you are incarnated in planet Earth, and you're not one of the greatest figures that walk on Earth, yeah, we are imperfect. And we came here to perfect our imperfections. So start by forgiving you by doing something that is not perfect. And then correct. And then move on. Our life is a school. If you don't make the grade, if you don't pass the test, it will come back to you, like in school. Let's choose to study a little harder when it comes and pass the test. That way you will not come again. We're going to be tested again, but in another subject, not this one anymore. The first to apologize is the bravest. The first to forgive is the strongest. And the first to forget is the happiest. Forget is not, oh, I forgot about it. And deep inside, you are maintaining all this grief and all this anger because it's still there. And beautiful day that you're going to the beach, that person tell you good morning and say, good morning, why? And the person, what's happening? He didn't forget. You just pretend. The first person that you have to stop pretending is to yourself. And then everything will go accordingly. If it does not happen from night to day, and often need a professional therapeutic monitoring through a psychologist who make this intimate approach, help us find our answers, feelings and deeper meanings. So if it doesn't happen the way we think, there is no shame to go and ask for professional help. Why not? We're not perfect. Somebody can help us. Awesome. Fantastic. Be true to yourself and use the tools that you have in your hands. But always use the why and the what for. This is golden. And always use the image of the egg. Always use the image of the egg. If it's not coming from within, if it's coming from outside and hitting you, and you cannot process right, don't let the egg crack. Use the shell as a barrier. nothing change if nothing change. You can say, duh, but I say, yeah. There is no way to heal any kind of sickness if you don't change the source, the root of the sickness, which is not what we think. It's mostly the emotion that we are nurturing inside ourselves. And they are flooding our body with bad chemical elements and creating an overdose that creates the sickness. My friends, the soul that acquires the virtue of forgiveness won't find any more trouble, no matter what happens. He will know how to run his life. And I hope that we all can think about the egg when things come to us. Choose to use the hard part of the egg when things are coming and they are not good. Protect yourself. And when things come that are really good, crack the egg from inside. Have a wonderful evening.